a couple hours before Evil Dead Burn, I watched Evil Dead Rise. I liked it. I can see that there is a mix of comedy and horror that works with this modern remake of the original franchise that I will now consider watching after watching this movie. It was great, but as you watch this movie, you will notice that this is more brutal and more gritty with like the violence and like I learned what their names are now. The Deadites, they're more serious than the ones in the first one. Like the first one, they would like spit like some funny insults, like calling like the kids like titty sucking parasites. Here, it's it kind of does still like get insulty, but it's more personal. With the first movie, it was like this innocent family, and then they were being terrorized and they were being made fun of, like the kids in particular. Here, this is a family that has gone through like trauma, at least like the main like characters that we focus on here. And it's in like the Deadites, how they like interact with them. It's like it's brutal with words too, but the violence, it's like 10 times. Like the gore in this is crazy. Like I was actually like flinching at some of them, but right away I think like I gotta give a hot take. I think this one might be better than the first one in the story that it wanted to give and kind of further expand like the Deadite lore. Because one thing you learn about this is like you learn more connections about the freaking people that were recording their devilish like religious like prophecy and like the not prophecy, I don't know how to say it, like the freaking tape recordings, or not tape, it's like the turntable, I don't know, it's like that stuff. You learn more about the circle of wise men, and you learn that there might be a counter to how you can attack these deadites. I'm gonna just talk about the whole movie, so we're gonna get into spoilers here. So this movie focuses on Alice and Will. They have an abusive relation, or he is abusive to Alice in their marriage, but no one really knows that other than Alice, of course. They all think Will is a good guy, but at the beginning, Will, he gets into an argument with Alice, and it's like about their relationship, how they're not having kids and whatever. And Will, he storms off and he drives away drunk, and he hits Jessica, who we've seen in the first Evil Dead Rise. She was the one who was last seen possessed, and she possesses him, and like he burns, and then he like dies. He gets into the coffin, and then he gets out, raises from the dead, and then he sees his father and possesses him. And from there, we see the whole family get attacked and taunted and tormented by the father at first, who what's her face, Thea. She's the first one to go out. That's Joseph's girlfriend. Joseph is the brother of Will. This family goes through so much crap here. I felt bad for the mother in particular, even though I didn't really like her. Like, they don't make her a likable character. You still feel like she didn't deserve much of what has happened in her past. But as far as the present, there was some indication that she was aware of the abuse, but didn't want to bring herself to believe it because she's already gone through so much. Because her father, the grandfather of Will and Joseph, he left them, their family, because he wanted to find protection from these like demons. Later, like his the grandmother who we see, she got dementia, so the mother had to carry so much burden and weight to raise the family still. And even after Will's death, she still had to push on through for Joseph. So there is just a lot of like things to wrestle with here. So while you don't really like the mother in particular, you can't also help but feel kind of bad for what she had went through. However, I think what this movie does a bit wonky with is, while it gets brutal and serious and it keeps you on edge for the entire film, here the ending, it feels a bit like it's like dragging. Like, it's keeping me at the edge, but it kind of gets underwhelming at moments. So in the final act, Alice, she is like the sole survivor at this point. She she gets stabbed like 3 times. First time in the ear with the pen by the grandmother. Second time with the what was it? By the dad, because the dad was or no, not the dad. Will. He's like the final boss here. He stabs her, or he gets her stabbed by like pushing her off like this, like into this pit, and then as she gets out, she gets stabbed again. So it's like the big like moments are the same. And I think the ending does drag, in which it made me confused because I'm not familiar with the Evil Dead franchise. I'm not familiar with the lore of the Deadites and how they get possessed, because I got confused on how the grandmother got possessed. So it is established, at least in the first movie from what I remember, when there's like a drop of blood, like contact and all that, or if you get killed, you get possessed. I don't remember the grandmother, getting like bleed out, or like, like I think maybe it was the dentures where Joseph's girlfriend, when she was like possessed, she like licks the denture, gets the blood on that maybe. But I don't know. I just didn't. It kind of felt slow in how she got possessed, because she got possessed as the mother. She's like already in a mental like breakdown. Like she's like gone mental, and she's like thinking like the Deadites are trying to save their family rather than actually killing them. So she lets like her husband in, and she like makes out with him, and he's possessed. By the way, it is the most uncomfortable scene I've ever had to sit through. They drag that kiss scene a lot, and things go crazy from there. But one of the best things about this movie, though, I gotta say, is the one-shot sequence, and it's such a shame they spoiled it already. That was like one of their early teasers. I feel like they should have kept that hidden. It was a really cool scene where we see Alice, she's like running away from them, or like trying to hide from them, while Joseph gets like ragdolled along with the mother by the grandma. And there's one moment where the father is just levitating, like moving to him as the grandma's like attacking Joseph. It's super cool. It's super eerie. That is the strongest thing about this film. Like they did really well with the brutality that they want to give out. Though at the end it does get a little in my opinion. Another thing that I also don't get, and I understand that this is supposed to like carry on the same like horror movie tropes where characters get all shocked, and when someone like does something crazy, like when the possessed are like breaking their bones and doing some weird stuff like that. One thing I'm not too like I was kind of confused with is Thea, as she was possessed, she told the grandma, you may know something about the dagger that they're looking for, because that's their whole agenda here. They're trying to find a dagger that can actually kill them. So I thought she was going to like possess the grandmother to find that dagger. And when the grandma's possessed, though, she doesn't really try and look for it. She's like still doing the same thing like the other possessed are doing. They're trying to kill Joseph and kill Alice. But when they possess Joseph, though, wouldn't it be possible that they could find a dagger, because Joseph was the one to know where it was, because he was the one who was so obsessed with his grandfather's work, because we learned that the grandfather is part of the Circle of the Wise Men, like that crew. So they could have won, but maybe that's an ability that they don't have. Maybe they can't retain knowledge of what who they're possessing, but it seems like they can, because they know about Alice's like effed up family, or her effed up like marriage with Will. So I was kind of confused on how they couldn't have found that immediately. But I get, for the sake of the film, what they wanted to like, how they wanted it to end, because Alice, she ultimately survives. Everyone dies. They either through dismemberment or stabbing Joseph and Will with the dagger, and then it ends, and then you see, spoiler alert again, in the post-credit scene, the grandmother lived, which I remember she wasn't the one being dismembered, I guess. I don't know. Her leg got cut off, but couldn't the father live too? His head gets sliced off, but I don't know. Some things I'm just kind of confused with. But the most confusing part about this is, what's her face? Ellie from the first movie, she lives. As like the possessed Ellie, of course. She's like in this mirror. She like kills a kid and she's back. I feel like I need to watch the originals to understand how any of this is possible. I just feel like this movie has some plot holes and some things that, like, it could have gone differently if it followed through on the rules that the movie has established, I think are the rules. But I don't know. There were some moments where I was kind of like scratching my head. But once I pieced it together, I was still sort of confused. But I was like, eh. It was still enjoyable. It was still a great film. But yeah, that's all I got to say. Make sure to like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.